But let's talk now to our friend from the United States of America. Mr. Greg Swenson is here. Welcome, Greg, Chairman of Republicans Overseas UK. You've been over in the States recently. Donald Trump's case is still going on. We've got a little clip, I think, that we can show you, where Mr. Trump calls the case a disgrace.
The government just said that they want 2 to 3 more weeks. That means they want to keep me off the trail for 2 to 3 more weeks. Now, anybody in there would realize there's no case. They don't have a case. Every legal scholar says they don't have a case. This is just a political witch hunt. It's election interfering. And this is really, truly election interference, and it's a disgrace. It's a disgrace. And in every poll, I'm leading by a lot. And they figure maybe they can do something here. Maybe they can do. This case should be over. This case should have never been brought. By the way, Alvin Bragg didn't want to bring the case. Your previous DA didn't bring the case. The FEC said they threw it away. They said, you got to be kidding. Southern District didn't bring the case. Nobody brought the case. And then Alvin Bragg brought the case as soon as, when I'm running and leading, that's when they decided, let's go bring a case. So it's a disgrace.
Donald Trump there saying it's a disgrace. I mean, he's not Wrong, is he? Because we now have the rather ridiculous situation where they've started fining him for speaking out against the people who are running the case. Despite that, he keeps having a go at them. Sure. They now say we might have to lock him up because the fines are not having any impact. Well, you know, it's getting to the ridiculous point here, isn't it?
It is. And, you know, sometimes President Trump is more animated and he's clumsy in his delivery. But I noticed, you know, the statement yesterday was done very quietly. And he was very sincere about it. Right. And he's perfectly right on every one of those points that he made.
Yes.
The case is a complete travesty. And the fact that they're enforcing this gag order on him when they don't have gag orders on the witnesses,
and
like
they certainly
Cohen,
don't have one on Michael Cohen,
right? Michael Cohen,
who's shooting his mouth off 10 to the dozen,
and Stormy Daniels too, but mostly Michael Cohen. And so it shows you just the sheer hypocrisy of this whole thing. It's not a good look.
It really isn't.
It's failing for the Democrats.
And also, do they not realise that it's not a good look? Because I was in America, as you know, over Easter, and you know, even people who are pretty staunch Democrats were saying they've got to stop this persecution of Trump because it's going to get him into the White House.
Absolutely. And if you look at even the critics of Trump, like Andy McCarthy in the National Review, who's a massive Trump critic, you know, Democrats like Alan Dershowitz, you know, prominent defense attorney, and you know, consistently says, I don't want to vote for Trump. I won't vote for him, but this is outrageous. And it's going, it really, 6 months ago I was saying, it's going to help him in the nomination, which it clearly did, but maybe hurt him in the general. And I'm starting to back away from that because I think it's going to help him. And it's polling, the polls are indicating that people think this is political, they think it's a weaponization of the justice system, and it really is.
And it is making the Democrats look ridiculous. Absolutely. I mean, Andrew Sullivan's another one who you would not normally be a Trump supporter, but he's been writing about how mad this whole plan is and what on earth do they think they're going to achieve.
It's backfiring, and I think it shows you a little bit of disconnect between the rabid Trump derangement syndrome people in Manhattan, in New York City, versus the rest of the country. So Democrats around the country are looking at this saying, this is going to put him in the White House. This is a disaster. The Biden campaign can't be happy, even though it was their idea to proceed with this. It's backfiring. But in New York, Alvin Bragg and this guy, Juan Marchand, they'll actually benefit because the TDS in New York is so intense that it'll help their careers in spite of hurting Biden in the election.
Doing it. Just as we were speaking there, we're seeing more explosions going off in Rafah. The offensive is still ongoing. I mean, this presents another problem for Joe Biden, doesn't it? Because he and Blinken, his Secretary of State, have been urging kind of caution and urging calm. I can't remember if they actually went as far as to say don't invade Rafah, but they certainly still support Israel. But this will put pressure on them, particularly in Michigan and those areas of America where there's a big Arab vote.
Yeah, and they're trying to play both sides, and it's really difficult to do that. You'd prefer a leader who just makes the call and sticks with it. But they're trying to honor, you know, the pro-Israel, which 80% of Americans are very pro-Israel in this year. But then you do have that radical wing, that fringe progressive wing that's basically pro-Hamas. And he's trying to play both sides, and that's really difficult to do.
It is. And we've seen, of course, the ridiculous state of affairs in America's universities, particularly the Ivy League universities, where you've got people now complaining that they need, humanitarian aid when they're literally on the Upper West Side of Manhattan, which I know well, in Columbia, and saying, oh, we're all going to starve to death. Is that what you want? The thing that I'm amazed by is that the parents haven't yet really made any kind of, statements, but they must be.
They're starting to.
Are they? Because, they're paying an awful lot of money to put these kids into college, 70, 80, 90,000 a year, and they're not even allowed into the buildings.
And so they're surely not getting the experience, right? They're not able to go to class. They're canceling graduations. They canceled the graduation at Columbia. I was in New York last week. The parents are starting to get annoyed.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
And I think you saw lawsuits already. I also happened to be at Northwestern on Friday and Saturday for my reunion. And there's real massive pushback. The donor class, I mean, I was at my business school reunion. The donor class is saying absolutely
no more. We're giving them no more money.
No mas. And I think you'll see there are 3 lawsuits already parents suing Northwestern. Not only is it ruining the experience and the education, but it's also devaluing the reputation of these schools, and that's what you're paying for.
Because they also appear to be allowing these activists to join in. And one of the things that I was making a point about, because we're going to talk about it coming up, the Oxford and Cambridge situation, where we've got these now tented cities. All the tents are the same. Somebody's funding this,
it's
right?
Funded.
Somebody's funding it, and I'd love to know who that is.
There's 4 or 5 that have been exposed, starting with George Soros, indirectly through the Open Society organization, which he funds. And so it's definitely funded. Over half of the arrests at Columbia last week were not affiliated with the university.
So they're not students.
These are professional agitators, and it's showing, it's exposing, just kind of the radical nature. These are the same people that did Antifa and BLM. They're just professional protesters looking for trouble. The universities have done the elite universities, starting with Northwestern, which it killed us. They basically rolled over and appeased and accommodated the pro-Hamas crowd, and it's pretty outrageous. But you're also seeing the red-blue divide. You're seeing universities like University of Florida, University of Texas managed it much better. They said you can protest, but the minute you break the law, we're shutting it down.
And we've seen some police officers acting much more sort of stringently, hard line.
Yeah, they're just enforcing the law. And I think, Biden even said that in his statement, although it was scripted and not very exciting. But, he said you can protest, but you can't break the law. Now, you also saw at University of North Carolina, and this was very inspiring. The chancellor came out to the protest when the protesters had taken down the American flag and put up the Hamas flag or the Palestinian flag. He marched down to the protest from his office and changed and put the American flag back up, and then you saw the frat bros, the fraternity boys, and the co-eds were singing the national anthem, protecting the flag. I mean, it was great to see. They raised $500,000 for
There
the
is a
frat
bit of
bros.
pushback, isn't there?
Absolutely.
And just to return to Donald Trump before we stop, he had complained previously that the judge wouldn't allow him out to see his son's graduation, but he managed to get down to the Grand Prix in Miami. I don't know how he managed that, but he had
it's a weekend.
It's a weekend, so he was able to do that.
And his son's graduation is on a weekday, I believe, on Friday. So, but he is permitted to go. He changed his mind on that. The judge.
Well, that's good.
Well, if I were Trump, I'd be happy not to go. It's kind of a chore going to these high school graduations.
Well, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, it's not something I would particularly be worried about. Like parents' evening,
exactly.
You go, sorry, I can't come. I'm being told by a judge I can't do it. But I mean, he was the star of the show down in Lando Norris, the new sort of British golden boy who won the Grand Prix for the first time, and who is now our sort of new Lewis Hamilton figure. Great pictures of him chatting away to Trump, and Trump was walking up and down the pit lane, like the president. Yeah, and the crowd, granted, crowd loved him. Auto racing, especially NASCAR, but even other auto racing, it definitely leans right for sure. But they loved Trump. They were chanting USA. They were chanting Trump. He's playing this really well. This trial is a farce, and he's actually exploiting it rather perfectly. Yes, I think so. Greg Swenson, great to see you. Thank you very much indeed. Great to be here.